let's start with something very simple. You come from a very cultural and a very huge heritage of a background. So my first question to you is, how is it to be, from Indian royalty, especially considering that, as compared to India, let's say before independence and right now, the royal families have drastically reduced in number. So being one of the very few royal families in India, how do you feel? And how has this entire journey shaped your lifestyle and shaped your values till now?
I think we all, as children, are proud of our background. I'm sure everyone here is very, very proud of their family, their upbringing, their parents. And I have grown up with the same values like all of us have, and that we will want to be born the same person in the same house. Most of us, with God's grace, will want that. So I grew up with the same set of values and pride for my family. And yes, from an early age, I realized that our family was very traditional. There was a very strong sense of, heritage, very strong sense of pride for the roots, our history. And because royal families like us are able to trace our family tree many, many hundreds of years ago, which I know everybody cannot, but because our family histories have been documented, so we are able to trace all the, the stories and legends and the heroes that have, and when I say heroes, I mean women as well. Hero term for me is sheroes and heroes that our families have had. And so yes, there was this great sense of pride, but at the same time, there was also a great sense of duty and tradition and continuing those values. Like you said, we are the royal families are not that many, and we all feel that responsibility that those traditions should continue. So we make that conscious effort. But growing up, it was a very regular growing up, going just like any of us, same stress. Aaj teacher pakdegi, homework nahi kiya, and principal kaan khechegi, was same. Or what is the deadline, what time my parents want me to come back. So
नहीं, पर रानी का रॉयल फैमिली का कौन कान पकड़ेगा, ये तो पॉसिबल ही नहीं है.
स्कूल में सब एक ही होते हैं.
Okay, so since we're talking about the school and education, so in your early 20s, because you've been writing a lot and a lot of your work has reflected the cultural aspect of things, or the historic and the artistic side of it. So how do you kind of maintain a balance between the contemporary and the ancient cultural heritage in your writing? And we're talking specifically about writing and your love for it, because this is a literature festival.
So my father is an author. He's right here. He's written 4 books. So I have not even written 1 book, but yes, there has been that interest in writing. I think that natural flair for writing has come. I've inherited it from him. Then, of course, being a journalist, you kind of, hone it better, and you meet people from the field, journalists who are extremely inspiring, and then you want to be able to tell the story responsibly and as, realistically as you can. And I think that has, from an early part of my life, become a sort of a, passion or responsibility that I must be able to tell a story in the best way that I can, and spread the word to as many people, because the power of the pen is extremely, extremely powerful. And I remember when Raghu Rai, I saw an interview of Raghu Rai, and he said that the first draft of history is responsible journalism. And that just always stays with me, that what you write has such a strong impact. And you may not feel it today, but now everything is available to you, with just a button. So you must responsibly write and, state facts.
So you've been also very vocal about the causes that you feel for. And the brainchild, if I can call it so, Gajra Cafe has been doing immensely well, and there have been so many YouTubers and so many food bloggers nationally who've covered it.
Yes.
So many good things have been written about it and said about it. So where did that concept come from, and what is the direction that you want to kind of take it forward to?
So what happened was during lockdown, when I was doing dry ration drives for people who were affected in the city of Baroda, I came across information, and I actually read an article in a newspaper, small little snippet which said 500 rupees ki rahat for transgenders. And tab tak, honestly, the thought had not even struck me because they're so invisible to us.
Yeah.
So then I wanted to know more about them, that were there any in Baroda, could we help out? And then I started reaching out to organizations such as Lakshya Trust, and then they identified 250 people from the community who were in need. And then we started with, of course, rations, and then kind of a relationship built over time. But I did realize that skilling was missing in them. Very often, a sense of purpose was missing because a lot of them had a lot of trauma from childhood. They had been abandoned. They have run away from homes, very, very violent and abusive, toxic relationships back home. And so the idea was to, of course, skill build, and even today I have a lot of administrative staff and students from the community, but also I wanted to give them a medium of livelihood, but to give them an access and a direct one-on-one with people like you and me, where you're not seeing them at a toll naka begging or in drag in a pride parade, and you see them as someone who's in their professional capacity, serving you to the best that they can. And food is such a, and I know you've done something on food diplomacy. Food is such an incredible way that people can come together, and it brings you exactly. So the idea was that let's make it about food and relaxation and enjoyment.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Srini, you want to ask?
I think, ma'am, that's truly commendable because definitely rightly said, when in such a huge society, when we often don't recognize a lot of sex of people, right? So it is a very challenging aspect. And one thing that intrigued me was, you mentioned about she heroes in your previous, answer. So currently in this, day and age where we have come across a long way from an unequal society to a society that is comparatively more equal. So what does it actually take to be a woman in this current day and age? And given your philanthropic initiatives, and you have done a lot for LGBTQ community, for women, and you've given so many employment opportunities. So what do you think is the way forward in order to inculcate and actually make India a just and equal society?
We still have a long way to go. And India, yes, we have many, many complications in India, but in many ways I feel the other parts of the world are worse than us. So it's good to look inward and see where we can improve, and there is a lot we need to do to improve the status of women, of half of our population. But it's a global problem, and it's just that the Western world has more sophisticated ways of covering up, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Gujarat, I must admit, is, and I'm very proud of it as a state, is far more equitable to women. It is a safer environment. The girl child is given an opportunity to educate herself. Many families have opted to have one girl, or so this was quite a pleasant surprise for me coming from Delhi, where I grew up. A simple thing like the Garba of Gujarat or Baroda specifically, I was shocked to see the number of girls, young girls out on their own, on their scooties. I had never seen it in Delhi. And one thing's Delhi is so hip and modern, you can't, because it's not humanly possible for a girl to venture out.
Yeah, 100%.
But in Gujarat, in Baroda, it is. So, luckily we do have that respect for women in Gujarat, and I'm very, very proud of it. And I think even the state of Baroda and our ancestors have a part to play in that, because women have played an important role in our families. But there is a long way we can go, but it all begins at home. I think respect for women starts at home. I think if the family decides to take a stand for their daughters and their daughter-in-laws, I think half the battle will be won.
How nice is that?
That is so very truly said, ma'am.
On that note, I also would want to acknowledge the presence of Radhika Raje's parents. They are here. So welcome, sir, welcome, ma'am, and thank you for being with us here at Vadodara Literature Festival. the third edition here at Parul University. We are so happy and so glad that you could make it. So ma'am, over to you now. So when we talk of the royal families, or when we talk of Baroda specifically, you know, everything in Baroda is a part of the heritage. So be it the Kamati Garden, or be it the Ajwa Lake, or be it, like you said, Garba, or the food that we eat, the education in our genes, all of this is a part of our heritage. Now, when I talk to you personally, as a person, what do you think is more important, preserving our cultural heritage or going with the flow with the ongoing globalization?
Kshitij, I think both are important, because what is today heritage and culture or architecture was cutting edge at one point.
Right.
We were progressive.
Right.
And today that has become a heritage. So one has to have your feet to the ground, but your eye to the future. You have to have that vision. So the roots and the wings are equally important, because that is how a society can grow and progress. And as individuals, a personal growth can only come if we are looking outward while knowing where we are coming from.
So this is such an important lesson for all students to understand, to stay rooted, to keep your feet on the ground, but your eyes or your sight on the horizon, where you want to see or understand what you want to do in the future, but knowing very well where you come from and where you belong. So heritage, या अपने roots जानना उतना ही जरूरी है और आगे देखना भी उतना ही जरूरी है. And this sentiment is symbolized metaphorically by Baroda, because Baroda is named on a tree, which is a banyan tree, which has its roots. The deeper the roots go, the larger or the better the tree is growing, right? So fantastic. Now, since we're talking about heritage, one very light-hearted question, which I had asked Samarjit sir also a couple of years ago. You live in one of the largest houses in the world. That is the Lakshmi Vilas Palace. The same question I'm repeating with no offense. एक रूम से दूसरे रूम में जाने में थक नहीं जाते आप?
बिल्कुल थक जाते हैं. बिल्कुल थक जाते हैं. और चाय तो ठंडी आती है.
No, but 500 acres. It was built by Major Charles Munt, if I'm not wrong.
It was
1890 में, तब वो 25 लाख में बना था, ऐसा माना जाता है. So it's an immense, and it's a pride of Baroda. How does it feel living inside?
It's a beautiful, beautiful home, and one feels great gratitude and pride for living in such an incredible institution, monument. It is a monument. But uski responsibility bhi bahut zyada hai. To take care of it, and you know that this is a legacy, not just for the family, but for the city. Yeah. You know, as a Barodian, I feel that we have a responsibility to take care of it, not just as a resident of the house. Absolutely.
And to all the students who probably are not from Baroda or from Gujarat, please make sure that you visit the palace at least once till the time you're studying here. It is a place that you must visit. And the last year, if I'm not wrong, more than 1 lakh people have visited, 1 lakh tourists have visited the Lakshmi Vilas Palace in 2023, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, it is a large number. I can't say the exact number, but it has been very large numbers.
Superb. Yeah. So please go and visit it once.
All right. I mean, I think you've covered pretty much about Baroda and culture. So diverting a little bit, but on the same stream. So in IIMON, what we always have emphasized is the concept of uniting the world the Indian way. And this is what we try to do across, you know, in all our conferences in 220 cities and 35 countries, where we try to inculcate both Indian practices and international knowledge. So it's like you learn the Arthashastra before you debate about, let's say, Russia and Ukraine. So that comes to my point regarding leadership. Now, someone from a royal family, and you know, I'm from South India, and I have seen Cholas, Pandyas, and now I'm learning more about Rajputs and so many other clans, the Marathas, Guptas, and you know, there's so much more. So one thing that's common across all of these clans is the leadership. So what are a few leadership, tricks and, few leadership tips that you think right now young people can employ from all of these rich heritage and royal families from India?
I think how royal families remain relevant for centuries in our country, and the fact that there was no revolution that happened, say you have a French Revolution or you had the Russian Revolution to get rid of the royal family. India has never had that in spite of so many royal families. And that was because there was a symbiotic relationship of respect and mutual love between the people and the royal family. And that came from actually interacting with them regularly by always having your ear to the ground. So knowing what your people, your extended family, your community was, what were the needs, the problems, the difficulties that the society that they were leaders of was facing. And because they were there generationally, it wasn't like, "Are ek term mein nikal jana hai." You know, it was, the vision was there that this is what we are building for the future to come. And, you know, we were all here to stay. We were always going to be answerable. There was no question of being fly-by-night operators. And I think today also that would be my advice, that one needs to always have your ear to the ground. You must have a vision, you must have ambition, but it's about taking people along, taking the community along. And inclusion in society is very important in leadership, to be able to look at people who are different from you and to be able to include them in your vision of progress and prosperity. Because no society, no company can grow in a manner by excluding a large number of our people.
Definitely, ma'am. Unity in diversity, as one may say. And, you know, following up to that, so if I had to ask you to name a role model, then who would you name right now?
A role model in leadership in today's generation? You know, for me, I look at it from a more spiritual and less of a cutthroat manner, because that's how my work is. But for me, the Dalai Lama is my guru in many ways.
We must invite him to Baroda once then.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So, ma'am, if I talk about Sir Sayajirao Gaikwad III, and believe me, I have read a lot about his life, his vision. I've been a part of a lot of theatre plays which happened on his life, and I'm so blessed. I think that I was born and I live in Baroda. His vision is immense, but he had a lot of emphasis on education, be it adult education, be it compulsory education for women, free education, and all of those policies, owing to which Baroda then became an educational hub. And then the MS University, as we all know. And I've said this in the past and I'm saying it again at the cost of being repetitive. But what Parul University now is doing is a movement of sorts in education. How much importance do you give education in a normal person's life?
Extremely important. And education can mean different things. Education doesn't only have to mean technical education, yes, which gives you a diploma or a degree. I think education is, honestly, I don't mean to be controversial, but for me, it was, I had to come to terms with seeing street people, you know, children on the streets. Being a mother, it was it's very hard for me to see children begging or, you know, asking for alms. And it was, I had to actually sit with myself and understand that I can't change everyone's life. And the fact that if I take them out of that setup, what am I offering them? Am I offering them a job? Am I offering them a security? Today, in their own way, their parents are giving them the life skills that they require in their present circumstances. So what I mean is, what you learn is important in whatever work you are looking at doing or whatever growth you are looking at. So it may not necessarily be a degree. I think if you are looking at and a lot in the West is happening where people are going in straight for vocations.
Yes.
It's not necessarily about a degree. So I think what you need to do, and that's why I also say, because in India we have had that adaptability. You see children. The other day I was with a lawyer. We were just talking, and the girl was actually, her father was working in a lari. And today she's a lawyer.
Yeah.
So, you know, and she must have had that struggle. But the thing is, you never give up. At that point of time, she worked in the lari, and that was the education she needed at that point of time. And then you scale up. So the idea is that as life teaches you, there's no permanence in what your education needs to be. You always have to keep learning.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a fantastic answer. And since we're talking about the younger generation, and since you said you also have teenage daughters, what is your view and take on social media? Because I see you yourself are also very active on social media, with I think 650K plus followers. So what is your take on social media? Do you think it is a boon, or do you think no, it has to be restricted?
It has to be restricted. I think it's very, very addictive. Even for us, you don't realize how long you've been on it, and it has to be restricted. I think there have to be certain hours you stay away from it, you detox, and especially for young minds. I think because of my own girls, and especially for girls, I think there is so much out there about what a girl should look like, or what she should be wearing and doing. Yes. And I think it brings a lot of unnecessary criticism upon yourself and self-consciousness where it's not required. So yes, I think it definitely needs to be restricted.
All right. So, Mom, I am 19 years old. So I can definitely say that throughout my friends, and for that matter, even in the conferences that we organize, we meet thousands of new young people on a daily basis. And one thing that everyone says is, they face failure. So I'm telling you, in the current generation, struggling and coping with failure is something that is really hard, because there's a lot of competition, a lot of opportunities in education and everything. Everyone wants to be the best. So when someone fails, they don't know how to cope with it. So what is your advice to all the young people on how to cope with resilience and, how to become self-aware?
I think it's a very, very important question, and there's no right answer. I can't even give you, because I think we all learn only when we fail. There is no real fixed mantra that I can tell you, this is what you need to do when you fail, because there are different takeaways. But we do know that you will learn more from your failure than you will ever learn from your success. But I think the idea is always to have a plan B. Firstly, always have a plan B. When we put everything in that one basket, and when that doesn't work out, we feel like everything is over. And once we know that we have planned, or there is another plan B in our mind, there is always something to look forward. Okay, this has not happened. Let me try this out. So I think as youngsters, that is the one advice I will tell you, is that focus on your passions, pursue them with all your, your sincerity. But it's not the end of the world if it doesn't work out. And therefore, always have a plan B.
Wow. Always have a plan B. Fantastic advice. And before I wrap up, a very light-hearted, quick fire questions, if I can shoot them to you. And I want as quick answers as I say these things to you. My first question to you is your favorite fashion icon.
Maharani Chimnabai.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Maharani Chimnabai. So please give the context also so that people know.
Maharani Chimnabai was Maharaja Sayaji Rao's wife, and I take her name because she used to wear these trendy waistcoats with her 9-yard sari. Her head would always be covered, but she would wear these waistcoats. She would wear these shoelace boots. She would wear a pocket watch. Incredible. I mean, very, very traditional, but at the same time, very, very global in her dressing sense.
Favorite food?
Paua.
Come on. Okay, Sev Usal or Bakarwadi?
Sev Usal.
Fine, good. I like that. Vadodara or Baroda?
Baroda.
Okay. Favorite monument apart from Lakshmi Vilas Palace?
Nyay Mandir.
Which one?
Nyay Mandir.
Nyay Mandir, of course, Nyay Mandir. Favorite artist? Can be any artist.
At the moment, Rekha Rodwitia.
Okay. Your favorite actor or actress?
Kangana Ranawat.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So some people laughed and some people clapped. So we'll just leave it at that without any explanations.
Actress, I said.
What comes to your mind when I say India?
It's like a cauldron of culture and diversity and human stories.
What comes to your mind when I say Vadodara Literature Festival?
Vibrancy, youth, intellectual stimulation.
What comes to your mind when I say Aimun?
Efficiency, professionalism, confidence, vision.
Okay, what comes to your mind when I say Samarjit Singh Gaikwad?
He's my husband. He's talking about my husband. I think I lucked out. Yeah.
Super. Final, what comes to your mind when I say Parul University?
I think it's extremely dynamic. It has a pulse on the future, and I think it's incredible kind of students and that's attracting, and the work it's doing in education.
Superb.